When perfect isn't good enough. The stranded captain. Before we start, drop a comment and let me know you're here. It really helps the channel grow and brings more sci-fi fans like you into our community. Now, let's begin. Captain Vexthar of the Kryn Sovereignty had a problem. His ship, the Eternal Dawn, hung dead in space 3 light-years from the nearest Kryn repair station. The engines were silent. The life support was running on emergency backup. And his crew of 200 was starting to panic. Engineering, report, Vexthar commanded, his 4 mandibles clicking with frustration. His species, the Kryn, were known across the galaxy as masters of precision engineering. Their ships were works of art, every system calibrated to perfection. Which made the current situation all the more humiliating. Chief Engineer Sylvan appeared on the communication screen, his scales flushed purple with embarrassment. Captain, I have tried everything. The quantum resonator has failed. I cannot repair it. The specifications are too exact. Even a deviation of 0.001% will cause catastrophic failure. Vexthar's claws tapped against his command chair. The Kryn built their technology to be perfect. Absolutely perfect. Every component manufactured to impossible tolerances. It made their ships the most reliable in the galaxy. Until something broke. Then it became a nightmare because only Kryn facilities could produce the exact replacements needed. What about the other stations nearby? Vexthar asked, though he already knew the answer. There is a Valoran outpost 2 days away, Sylvan replied. But they cannot help. Their manufacturing tolerances are too crude. There is also. He hesitated. Speak. There is a human repair station. Station Rusty Bolt. It is only 6 hours away. The human station. Vexthar felt his blood run cold. Human repair stations. They were legendary across the galaxy, but not in a good way. Humans built their stations from salvaged parts. They used duct tape and something called zip ties to hold critical systems together. Their repair bays were chaos incarnate, filled with spare parts from 1,000 different species, tools scattered everywhere, and grease covering every surface. Absolutely not, Vexthar said. I will not allow those scavengers to touch my ship. Captain, Sylvan said carefully, we have enough power for 6 days. If we go to the Kryn facility, we will run out before we arrive. The human station is our only option. Vexthar closed all 4 of his eyes. His ship. His beautiful, perfect ship. In the hands of humans who thought quality control meant close enough. But Sylvan was right. They had no choice. Set course for Station Rusty Bolt, he said, the words tasting like poison. And pray to the ancestors that I don't regret this. First impressions. 6 hours later, the Eternal Dawn limped into docking range of Station Rusty Bolt. Vexthar stared at it through the view screen and felt his heart sink. The station was a patchwork nightmare. Sections from different ship types welded together. Solar panels that clearly came from 3 different manufacturers. A docking bay that looked like it had been added as an afterthought, held on by what appeared to be actual rope. This is Station Rusty Bolt, a voice crackled over the comm. Welcome aboard, Captain. I'm Jake Martinez, Station Chief. We got your distress call. Bring her into Bay 3. We'll get you sorted. The voice was too cheerful. Too casual. Vexthar had dealt with humans before. They never took anything seriously. They made jokes about critical systems failing. They treated starship repair like it was a hobby instead of a science. The Eternal Dawn drifted into the bay, pulled by the station's tractor beam. Through the windows, Vexthar could see the human repair bay. It was worse than he'd imagined. Parts everywhere. Tools hanging from walls with no organization. A human in stained coveralls was drinking something from a cup while casually welding 2 pieces of hull together. Another human was singing while they worked on what looked like a Valoran plasma drive. This was a mistake. This was a terrible mistake. The chief mechanic. Jake Martinez met them at the airlock. He was tall for a human, with graying hair and oil stains on his hands. He smiled broadly, which showed his teeth. Vexthar knew humans did this to show friendliness, but to a Kryn, it looked like a predator ready to bite. Captain Vexthar, Jake said, extending his hand. Pleasure to meet you. Heard you folks have engine trouble. Vexthar did not take the hand. My quantum resonator has failed. It requires replacement. However, I do not believe you can help. The tolerances required are beyond human manufacturing capabilities. Jake's smile didn't falter. Well, let's take a look first before we decide what we can and can't do. Mind if I bring my team aboard? If you must, Vexthar said coldly. What happened next made Vexthar's scales itch with discomfort. Jake and 3 other humans boarded the Eternal Dawn carrying toolboxes that looked like they'd been dropped from orbit several times. They walked through his pristine corridors with their dirty boots, leaving marks on the polished floors. They touched his ship's walls with their oily hands. One of them was chewing something and making loud noises. But then they reached the engineering bay, and something changed. The examination. Jake knelt beside the quantum resonator and pulled out a device that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts. He ran it over the surface of the resonator, his eyes studying a screen that flickered occasionally. Beside him, his team spread out, examining other systems. They moved with a purpose that Vexthar hadn't expected. Despite their casual attitude, they worked efficiently. Huh, Jake muttered. Interesting. What is interesting? Sylvan asked, hovering nervously. Your resonator didn't fail because of a manufacturing defect, Jake said, still studying his device. It failed because you've been running it too perfectly. Vexthar felt his mandibles spread in confusion. That makes no sense. Perfect operation cannot cause failure. Jake stood up, wiping his hands on his coveralls. See, that's where you're wrong, Captain. Your engines are designed to operate at exactly 1.573 gigawatts, right? Not 1.572. Not 1.574. Exactly 1.573. That is correct, Sylvan confirmed. The problem is, Jake continued, quantum systems are never truly stable. They fluctuate. Constantly. Usually by tiny amounts that don't matter. But your ship systems keep forcing the resonator back to exactly 1.573. Over and over. Thousands of times per second. You've literally vibrated it to death trying to keep it perfect. The engineering bay went silent. Vexthar stared at the human, trying to process what he'd just heard. Are you saying that our pursuit of perfection has destroyed our ship? In a manner of speaking, yeah, Jake said. It's like, imagine you're holding a guitar string and trying to keep it perfectly still. But every time it tries to vibrate naturally, you force it back. Eventually, the string snaps. Same principle here. Can you repair it? Vexthar asked, his voice quieter now. Jake smiled. Repair it? Captain, I can make it better. The human method. Over the next 12 hours, Vexthar watched in horror and fascination as the humans worked. They didn't replace the quantum resonator. They couldn't. As Vexthar had predicted, they didn't have the equipment to manufacture something with the required tolerances. Instead, they did something he never would have considered. They modified it. Jake and his team installed dampeners around the resonator. Not Kryn dampeners, which would have tried to maintain perfect stability. These were crude, simple devices that allowed for variation. They let the resonator fluctuate naturally within a safe range instead of forcing it to stay at one exact point. You're making it less precise, Vexthar said, watching them work. Nope, Jake replied, not looking up from his work. I'm making it more resilient. Precision and reliability aren't the same thing, Captain. Sometimes the best solution isn't the perfect one. It's the one that works. They added other modifications. A backup power relay made from 3 different manufacturers' parts. A cooling system that used human-designed fans instead of the elegant Kryn molecular cooling grid. Emergency bypass switches that looked like they belonged in a museum. It was ugly. It was crude. It violated every principle of Kryn engineering. And when they powered it on, it worked perfectly. The test run. Engines online, Sylvan reported, his voice filled with disbelief. All systems nominal. No, wait. Better than nominal. Power output is actually more stable than before the failure. Vexthar stared at the readouts. His engineer was right. The quantum resonator was running smoothly, the power curve steady but with gentle variations that somehow made the whole system more stable. Jake appeared on the view screen, back on his station. How's she running, Captain? I do not understand, Vexthar admitted. Your repairs are imprecise. Imperfect. By every measure of Kryn engineering, they should not work. And yet they do. Better than before. That's because Kryn engineering is missing something important, Jake said. Flexibility. See, humans learned a long time ago that perfect systems are brittle. They can't adapt. They can't handle the unexpected. So we build systems that are good enough and then we make them tough enough to handle variation. Good enough, Vexthar repeated, the words feeling strange. In Kryn culture, good enough was an insult. It meant you hadn't tried hard enough. It meant you'd settled for mediocrity. But his ship was running. Better than before. Captain, Sylvan called. The chief engineer from the Valoran outpost is calling. They heard we were in trouble and wanted to check on us. Vexthar authorized the call. Commander Trell of the Valorans appeared on screen, his large eyes blinking slowly. Captain Vexthar, we received your distress signal. How may we assist? The situation is resolved, Vexthar replied. Trell's eyes widened. Resolved? But your quantum resonator failed. That requires specialized Kryn facilities. We stopped at Station Rusty Bolt. There was a long pause. Then Trell started laughing, a sound like wind chimes. Ah, the humans fixed you. Of course they did. They fix everyone. I should have suggested it myself. You have used human repair stations? Vexthar asked, surprised. Many times, Trell confirmed. We all have. Every species that's been in space long enough eventually learns the truth. When something breaks far from home, you don't go to the species that built it. You go to the humans. They can fix anything. The realization. After the call ended, Vexthar stood on his bridge, watching Station Rusty Bolt recede as they departed. His ship was running smoothly. His crew was safe. And he'd learned something that went against everything he'd been taught. Captain, Sylvan said softly. I have been reviewing the modifications the humans made. I believe we should keep them. Even when we return to Kryn space. They make the ship more reliable. Vexthar nodded slowly. Contact the Sovereignty Engineering Council. Tell them I wish to file a report on alternative repair methodologies. They won't like it, but they need to hear it. He looked at the datapad in his hand, displaying the bill from Station Rusty Bolt. It was surprisingly reasonable. At the bottom, Jake had written a note, thanks for trusting us. She's a beautiful ship. We just helped her be tougher. Any problems, come back anytime. Jake. Vexthar activated the communication channel. Station Rusty Bolt, this is Captain Vexthar. Jake's face appeared. Captain? Everything okay? Yes. Everything is good enough. Vexthar allowed himself a small smile. I wanted to say thank you. You saved my ship and my crew. If I am ever in this sector again, I will visit. Anytime, Captain. That's what we're here for. As the channel closed, Vexthar settled into his command chair. His ship was less perfect than it had been. But it was more real. More resilient. More alive. Sometimes, he realized, good enough was better than perfect. The reputation spreads. 3 months later. Station Rusty Bolt had been quiet for a week. Too quiet. Jake Martinez sat in his office, reviewing inventory and wondering if maybe they should advertise more. Sure, word of mouth had brought them steady business for years, but lately. His communicator beeped. "Chief, you've got to see this," said Maria, one of his lead mechanics. "Better come to observation deck." Jake stood, his knees creaking. Getting too old for this, he thought. But when he reached the observation deck, what he saw made him forget about his knees. Ships. Dozens of them. From every species in this sector, and some he didn't recognize. All heading toward the station. "What the hell?" Jake muttered. Maria grinned. "Word got out about the Kryn ship. Apparently, Captain Vexthar has been telling everyone about us. And I mean everyone. The flood begins." Over the next few hours, Jake's small team was overwhelmed with requests. A Valoran cruiser with a faulty shield generator. A Zenthari science vessel with a navigation computer that kept crashing. A Gorvan freight hauler that was making a sound like a dying whale according to its captain. A small diplomatic shuttle from the Tessari collective that wouldn't go faster than half impulse. Jake divided his team and got to work. This was what he lived for. Not the paperwork. Not the inventory management. The actual hands-on problem solving. Every species built their technology differently, with different principles and different materials. Figuring out how to fix all of them was like solving a new puzzle every time. The Valoran shield generator was overheating because their species ran cooler than most, so they designed their cooling systems for lower temperatures. Jake installed a simple heat exchanger from a human ship that could handle the higher ambient temperature of space outside Valoran territory. The Zenthari computer kept crashing because it was too smart. It was designed to process so much data that it was overwhelming its own memory buffers. Jake's solution was counterintuitive. He slowed it down slightly and installed more robust error handling. The Zenthari engineer looked horrified at first, then amazed when the computer not only stopped crashing but actually performed better. The Gorvan freighter's dying whale sound was actually a loose mounting bracket. Jake tightened it with a wrench and charged them for 5 minutes of labor. The Gorvan captain tried to pay him 10 times the bill. "For 20 years, that sound haunt my sleep," the captain said in broken common. "You are miracle worker. The difficult customer." But then came Captain Shorven. A Kronar, from one of the proudest warrior species in the galaxy. His battleship, the Unbreakable Will, had damage from recent combat. He stormed into Jake's office with 3 armed guards and slammed a data pad on the desk. "Human," Shorven growled, "I am told you can repair any ship. I do not believe this. Kronar engineering is superior to all others. But I have no choice. My ship requires repair, and there are no Kronar facilities in this sector." Jake picked up the data pad and reviewed the damage report. Punctures in the armor plating. Melted weapon mounts. A twisted support beam in the main corridor. He winced. This wasn't mechanical failure. This was battle damage. Major battle damage. "Can you fix it or not?" Shorven demanded. "I can fix it," Jake said. "But I need to know something first. Will you accept repairs that aren't identical to your original systems?" Shorven's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "I don't have Kronar-grade armor plate. I do have reinforced titanium alloy from Earth. It's different. But it's strong. Maybe even stronger in some ways. Same with the weapon mounts and the support beam. I can make your ship spaceworthy again, but it won't be pure Kronar construction." The office went silent. Shorven's hand moved to his sidearm. For a moment, Jake thought he might have pushed too far. Kronar didn't like admitting that anything could be better than their own technology. Then Shorven laughed. A deep, booming sound. "You are honest, human. I respect this. Very well. Make my ship strong again." I do not care if it is pure Kronar or mixed human Kronar. As long as it can withstand battle. The challenge. Repairing the unbreakable will took 3 days. Jake pulled his entire team onto the project. The armor plating was straightforward, just a lot of welding. The weapon mounts required more creativity. Kronar weapons used a different power coupling than human systems, so Jake had to design adapters on the fly. But the support beam was the real challenge. It ran through the center of the ship, bearing tremendous structural load. The original Kronar beam was a single piece of crystalline metal, grown in 0G using techniques Jake didn't have access to. It was cracked in 3 places and twisted along its length. We could replace it with a human I-beam, Maria suggested. But it won't be as elegant. Elegant doesn't matter if it works, Jake replied. But he was thinking. The Kronar beam wasn't just structural. It also conducted power and data throughout the ship. A simple steel beam couldn't do that. Then he had an idea. What if instead of one beam, they used multiple smaller beams in parallel? Each one handling part of the load, each one with redundant power and data lines. If one failed, the others would compensate. It went against Kronar engineering philosophy, which favored single, perfect solutions. But it was more reliable. More resilient. They built it over 2 days, working around the clock. When they were done, the support structure looked different from the original. Instead of one elegant crystal beam, there were 4 reinforced beams arranged in a square pattern, with power lines and data cables running through protective conduits. It's ugly, Maria said. Yeah, Jake agreed. But it'll never break. The test. When Captain Shorven saw the repairs, his face went through several expressions. Confusion. Disgust. Anger. Then, slowly, something like respect. This is not Kronar engineering, he said. No, Jake admitted. It's human engineering. With respect for Kronar needs. Your ship will handle battle stress better now. If one support beam is damaged, the others will keep you flying. Shorven walked around the structure, examining every weld, every bolt. His guards did the same. Finally, he turned to Jake. You have made my ship less beautiful, Shorven said. But more deadly. The Kronar respect function over form. You have given me function. He extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. You have my gratitude, human Jake Martinez. They shook hands. Shorven's grip could have crushed steel, but Jake managed not to wince. If you encounter other Kronar, Shorven continued, tell them Shorven of the Unbreakable will send you. They will listen. Perhaps they will learn what I have learned. The word spreads further. Over the next few weeks, the pattern continued. Ships from across the galaxy found their way to Station Rusty Bolt. Each species brought different problems. Each species had different reactions to human solutions. The Velki, who built their ships from organic materials, were initially horrified when Jake suggested using synthetic polymers to repair their hull. But when they saw how the synthetic patches actually bonded better with their organic hull and could be grown over by the ship's natural healing processes, they became enthusiastic converts. The Morvani, whose ships were built for beauty as much as function, cried when Jake covered their decorative panels with plain steel plates. But when those plates stopped a micrometeorite strike that would have punctured their hull, they commissioned him to create decorative coverings for the protective plates. The Zenith Collective, who built ships entirely by committee with every decision requiring consensus from thousands of individuals, found human repair methods baffling. Jake would make decisions in minutes that would take them months. But they couldn't argue with results. The Council's interest. Then came the call Jake had been both expecting and dreading. The Galactic Engineering Council wanted to talk. The council was made up of representatives from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They set standards. They regulated repair facilities. They decided what was acceptable engineering practice and what wasn't. And by all their standards, Station Rusty Bolt should have been shut down years ago. Chairman Voxtel, a Kryn engineer who looked like he'd been carved from ice, appeared on Jake's screen. "Mr. Martinez, your station has come to the council's attention." "I figured it would eventually," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You repair ships using non-standard methods. You mix components from different manufacturers. You improvise solutions that violate established protocols. By all conventional measures, your work should not function. And yet..." Voxtel paused. "And yet you have a success rate of 97%. Higher than any other repair facility in this sector. Including our own." Jake waited. Here it comes, he thought. The order to shut down. "We would like to understand how," Voxtel continued. "We would like to send observers to study your methods. With your permission." Jake blinked. "You want to study what I do?" "We want to learn," Voxtel said. "For centuries, the advanced species have believed that perfection is the goal. That precision is paramount. That mixing technologies is inherently flawed. You are proving us wrong, Mr. Martinez. And the Council wishes to know why." The human philosophy. 3 days later, a team of Council observers arrived at Station Rusty Bolt. Engineers from the Kryn, the Zenthari, the Valorans, and half a dozen other species. They watched Jake and his team work. They took notes. They asked questions. At the end of the week, they gathered in the observation lounge. Jake stood before them, feeling like he was back in school being graded on a test he hadn't studied for. "Mr. Martinez," Voxtel said, "we have observed your methods. We have analyzed your repairs. And we have a question. How do you achieve such success with such imprecise techniques?" Jake thought for a moment. "How do you explain humanity's approach to engineering to species who'd spent millennia perfecting their own methods?" "It's not about perfection," he finally said. "It's about resilience. See, humans learned engineering the hard way. We built things that broke. A lot. We made mistakes. We had failures. And we learned that the best systems aren't the ones that never break. They're the ones that break gracefully and can be fixed easily." He pulled up a holographic display showing a Kryn engine and a human engine side by side. "Your engines," he pointed to the Kryn design, "are perfect. Every component precisely manufactured. They run flawlessly. Until something breaks. Then they're nearly impossible to fix because everything has to be exactly right. Our engines," he pointed to the human design, "are good enough. Components have tolerances. Parts can be swapped. If something breaks, you can usually find a workaround." "But that lacks elegance," one of the Zenthari observers objected. "Yeah," Jake agreed. "But elegance doesn't keep you alive when you're 3 light-years from the nearest repair station and your engine just died. Reliability does. Flexibility does. Being able to fix things with whatever you have on hand does." Voxtel was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood. "You have taught us something important, Mr. Martinez. Perfection is a goal, but resilience is a necessity. The Council will be incorporating human engineering principles into our standards. Stations like yours will no longer be considered substandard. You will be recognized as specialists in adaptive repair." "Does that mean I need to file more paperwork?" Jake asked. Voxtel's mandibles twitched in what might have been a smile. "Considerably more, I'm afraid." "Figures," Jake muttered, but he was grinning. The legacy. 6 months later, Station Rusty Bolt had been officially designated as a Galactic Class A repair facility. It was the first human-run station to receive the designation. Jake had hired more crew. Expanded the bays. Even cleaned up a bit, though not too much. You needed a certain amount of creative chaos to do good work. Ships still came from across the galaxy. But now they didn't come as a last resort. They came because they wanted the human touch. They wanted repairs that would last. That would adapt. That would keep working even when conditions weren't perfect. Captain Vexthar visited, his eternal dawn running smoothly. The Kryn sovereignty has commissioned a study of human repair methods, he told Jake. They are considering incorporating flexibility into their designs. You have changed how we think about engineering. I just fix things, Jake replied with a shrug. No, Vexthar said. You do more than that. You remind us that we are all flawed. That our technology is flawed. And that working with those flaws is often wiser than denying they exist. That night, Jake sat in his office, looking at the commendations and certifications now covering his wall. The Galactic Engineering Council's seal of approval. Thank you notes from a dozen species. Even a medal from the Kronar Battle Fleet for exceptional service to warrior vessels. But his favorite was still the first note. The one from Captain Vexthar, sent after his first repair. Thank you for showing us that good enough is sometimes better than perfect. Jake smiled. That was worth more than all the official recognition in the galaxy. Because it meant he'd taught someone something important. Something humans had learned the hard way over centuries of trial and error. That sometimes, the best way forward wasn't perfection. It was persistence. Adaptation. Making do with what you had and making it work anyway. That was the human way. And the galaxy was finally learning to appreciate it.